Well, I'm Alex Martel. I'm the president and founder of Amnesia Rockfest in Montreal, Quebec. I started this festival when I was 17 years old because there was just nothing going on for this kind of music in my area. And the first year we had 3 bands, 500 people showed up, and fast forward almost 10 years later and we're now the largest rock, punk and metal festival in Canada, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. It actually reminds me of like a European festival.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have the whole camping aspect, and the fact that it takes place in the middle of nowhere, and I think it's a really unique thing, at least for North America, because there's not many camping events, or at least for this kind of music, and I think the vibe is just so cool because it's a tiny little village of 900 people, so multiply it by it's just like the whole town gets taken over by thousands and thousands of metalheads and punks and hardcore kids and rockers, and it's just like a really cool, unique vibe. So you have to be there to I guess get what I'm saying, because it's a really unique experience.
I mean, I don't want to rehash all the slander that people have been throwing around, because I'm not a negative person. I'm a positive, future-forward kind of person. I believe in creating a better future and seeing the bright side of things rather than trying to dissect and tear something apart. A lot of people who were not there last year were telling me, "Hey Mike, you went to Rockfest. I heard that it was disgusting and it was this and it was that." I said, actually, I've been to many festivals for 20 years all around the world. I was like, it's actually one of the best festivals I ever fucking went to. And so who cares if the fucking urinals overflowed? Who cares if there's a fucking piss in the mud, It's a fucking festival. It's not a fucking luxury hotel. It's not a 5-star tour. You go there to get grimy. People do Tough Mudder. People do these big corporate, team building events where they crawl through mud and climb through barbed wire. So why is it cool in that context, but people bitch and whine about garbage, So every opportunity that I've had since last summer, I've been speaking only positive praises about the festival. And I was there, I was smelling piss, at certain points. You know what? So what? Human beings, you have that many fucking people there. Little things happen. I thought the festival was incredibly well organized, and the bands were super happy. It seemed there was ample concessions, and all the kids seemed to be enjoying themselves. I didn't see anybody bitching and moaning there. It's funny. It only came on the internet after,
Yeah, well, it was kind of weird, because I had, obviously there were some things that weren't working as we had planned. And I gotta admit, I definitely wasn't happy with the production team that we had hired last year. But it's weird because on the festival grounds everyone was having a great time. Then on the internet it's like another story. So it was kind of weird. But I mean, we announced last January that we're bringing major changes for logistics and production, and we have Festival d'été de Québec taking over our production and logistics, and they're the largest music festival in Canada. So we also have the site coordinator from the Ottawa Blues Fest, and there's just major changes, and we're investing tons of money this year to make sure that everything's going to be perfect, but it's probably never going to be perfect, but you know what I mean. We're doing everything we can that's in our control to make it better. There's always going to be things that we can't control, like if everyone's not respectful of the environment and they all throw their garbage on the floor and stuff, there's not much we can do. But same thing with the weather. But aside from that, I'm having a really good time working with the Festival d'été people, and I see the difference and the expertise that they have, and to me it's just kind of day and night. So I think people are going to be really happy this year.
Yeah. There, obviously, you can tell by my shirt, one of my favorite bands growing up. I mean, Dave Boucher. I still remember us hanging out at the Stripe show at the Rainbow with Sick and All and Trigger Happy. One King Down. Great show. We're Stripe fans. We're 90s hardcore kids. That's where we come from. And so the lineup this year is extremely exciting for that reason, among many others, obviously. Explain a bit why you've chosen to book so many veteran bands, veteran hardcore bands, some from the early 90s, some from the late 90s, early 2000s. You've brought back a lot of bands that kids in Quebec love and have gone to see in small venues for years. Explain why it seems like there's this concentration in the early part of the days at least of like great mid-era hardcore bands and metalcore bands.
Well, I like to really have a balance in the lineup. I mean, I spend lots and lots and lots of time working on the lineup, and to me, every band is really important. From the smaller one, at the bottom to the top headliners. To me, it's all important, and I think that's why lots of people always say that our lineup has a depth to it. And to me, that's really important because there's some people that are more kind of like casual music fans, that they don't really know much about music, so they look at our poster and they might just know about Blink-182 or Motley Crue, so they just come to see those two bands and party. And there's people like you who are have way more knowledge and more underground type of music, and I'm sure there's lots of people that are coming only to see these old school hardcore bands that are reunited, I just really like to get some really obscure bands or bands that are a bit rare or don't really come often or haven't been here in a super long time. So, and I kind of try to do that with all the genres that we have. I do it with all the old school punk rock bands, and even with metal this year. We've got stuff like Venom on there. So, to me it's really important, and I guess it's one of the things that people really like about Rockfest, just the diversity and the overall lineup.
Yeah. To book bands like Raised Fist, Earth Crisis, Strife, what's the other ones? Besides Chain of Strength, Judge. Yeah. I mean, to book these bands, you obviously have to understand their music and feel their music, and obviously you do, or else you wouldn't be booking them. Explain a bit about the kind of struggles that you went through in life to get to the point where you fell in love with this kind of music, and where this kind of music helped you get by.
Well, I guess like most teenagers, I felt like I didn't belong anywhere, and I lived in Montreal my whole life, so I was pretty much isolated, and I was the only kid in my high school that listened to any kind of heavy music. So it just really made me feel good, and I identified with it, and the thing was I always had to go elsewhere to see concerts and festivals. I was really lucky because my parents were super cool, and they drove me to Ozfest in Pennsylvania and to a bunch of shows in Montreal and Ottawa and Toronto, and but yeah, I just basically started it when I started really getting involved like in my local music scene. And as I said, I mean, it was just for fun, just because there was nothing happening in my area. And now it's really cool because it's kind of the opposite. It went full circle in the sense that now everyone's coming to me and to my little town to watch all these bands instead of me going elsewhere. So, and every year just seeing those bands play almost in my backyard, it's just like, it's just like holy shit all the time. So, to me, that's definitely the biggest pay.
Awesome, man. Very cool. What role do you believe music has in lives of young people who are struggling with institutionalized forces trying to conform them, like school, like the rules, parents who might not be understanding of the kids' needs? I was a social worker for many years, so I worked in high schools with the kids from single parent families who are identified as dropout risk, and these kids are struggling. They're looking for anything to cling on to, and that was me in my teens, and I clung on to music. So what do you think? You work with your festival, serves a lot of kids. You've been on shows for years. What do you think are some of the things that affect young people nowadays, generally in society, that drive them to hopefully use music as an outlet?
Well, I think it's as you just said, and I guess I'm a good example too, because my parents were actually super cool about these things, and but they did send me to private school for high school, and it was a Catholic school, and my parents aren't religious, but it was the only private school. So anyways, long story short, it was like the kind of place where before you had lunch, you had to stand up and look towards a cross and listen to whoever was doing the prayer, and I was listening to Marilyn Manson and stuff like that, so I was just like, fuck that shit. And I would always be the one that would question everything that they did, and go against their authority. And I guess just being in that environment all the time, it just made me not want to conform even more. So looking back now that I'm actually making a living out of my passion for this kind of music, it just, to me, that's a big fuck you to these people that were like, oh, if you listen to that kind of music or whatever, you're gonna end up being a bum, or so yeah, I can totally relate. And I guess my story and your story and the stories of pretty much everyone that listens to this kind of music, and whether it's hardcore or punk or metal, I guess we all have that kind of connection in a sense, and in a way Rockfest becomes the place where all these people unite, and from all ages. So yeah, I think that's something that's really cool about Rockfest, that sense of unity.
Very inspiring. I remember growing up, I saw Marilyn Manson numerous times. I saw him with Nine Inch Nails, and then I saw him headline Metropolis. I was mostly a fan of Portrait, and then of course Antichrist.
Yeah.
And then my interest kind of waned, although I always had respect for Brian and for the work that he did, and how he did go against the establishment, and he inspired so many to do the same. So that was really cool to see him on the lineup last year, along with Offspring, who were similar kind of anti-establishment. They're there to kind of kids to identify with, who aren't, let's say, the coolest kids. It's what punk rock really is. You're not so cool. This is the music for you. This is the uncool. Punk was always the uncool. So you had those two bands, and then you had fucking For the Fallen Dreams and Sworn Enemy and Comeback Kid. Just an amazing spread. And I too went to Ozfest, a number of times growing up, 98 and 99. So I saw Snot, Motorhead, Life of Agony, with a singer of Ugly Kid Joe, which was actually great, So I thought those festivals were great. But then I look at yours like, fuck, how many bands, So I think it's awesome that you're making these efforts, and I think people should encourage you and not tear you down, because the energy and the I guess experience or the love for music required to do what you do, I don't think it's acknowledged enough. And so I just wanted, like, I only interview people who I want to interview. And so people who I interview tend to be really into what they're into. And you're obviously into music.
Yeah.
Or else you wouldn't have had this fucking lineup. It looks like my fucking TV shelf the last 20 years. You know?
Yeah, well, I like it when people say that, I get that comment a lot, like, hey, did you, like, break into my house and, take notes of my CD collection? And, I think that's really cool, it shows the diversity. And, looking at the lineup this year, I mean, I used to listen to Blink-182 when I was, like, 13 and skateboarding in Actually, I was skateboarding where we have the festival grounds now, so they're basically gonna play where I used to listen to them skateboarding, and aside from that, I had a phase where I was really into Cradle of Filth, totally different genre, and it's just crazy to have them play here and play with someone like Blink-182, and I think that's really cool. And again, like the diversity, I think it's just really awesome. I remember when we released the lineup this year, we had I saw a Real Big Fish wrote on their Facebook page, finally our dreams of playing with Cannibal Corpse, are finally coming true. And I thought that was hilarious. And, it's really cool that you can walk to a stage and it's the Planet Smashers, and then walk to the next stage and it's Venom.
Totally.
I think it's really cool, and the mix of like international bands with Quebec bands. To me that's always been something important, and I'm actually really proud of all the bands that are getting reunited this year. Like Reset with the original lineup.
No worries.
And so yeah.
Well, dude, we could probably talk for hours. I'm sure we will speak again. But I just wanted to get this little piece online as soon as possible, so people see that you're an approachable dude, you're a real dude who loves music, who grew up much the same way as a lot of these people, and you went through the same struggles as everyone, loneliness, fucking outcast, and just try to carve a niche for yourself, like identity for yourself, just like all of us who were born into this cultureless culture. You gotta find your culture within this culture. And I think in this kind of music, we did. And I think your festival really represents all that we've been through, and hopefully give us hope for the future as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's something that I'm really proud of, the fact that, in the end, I'm just a fan of music. I'm not like, this corporate suit, just, okay, how are we gonna get the money from parents? Let's do Disney stuff. How are we gonna get money from the hipsters? Let's do a hipster festival. How are we gonna get money from the electronic music fans? And let's do an electronic music show. And how are we gonna get money from the metal people? You know what I mean? It's like it's all the music that I love and that I like. So I think, well, hopefully people sense the fact that it's real, and it's not just about business for us. So
I ate a lot of hot dogs last year, man. I ate so many fucking hot dogs. Just hanging out and fucking every couple hours another hot dog. I like festivals, man. You should go chill out. The crowd was awesome. People were chilling. So anyways, I thank you for your time, Alex. I wish you all the best.
yeah, well, thanks to you.